Welcome back to our second segment of Live at the Legislature. And for this second segment, we will be talking on the topic of safe travels, a return to safe tourism and economic recovery. This morning, we're joined by three legislators. The first is Senator Glenn Wakai. Senator Wakai represents Senate District 15, which includes the areas of Kalihi, Mapunapuna, Salt Lake, Aliamanu, and Foster Village. Senator Wakai is also the chair of the Senate Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism. Next, we have Representative Richard Onishi, who represents House District 3, which includes the areas of Hilo, Kia'au, Curtistown, Volcano, and Pahala. Representative Onishi is the chair of the House Committee on Labor and Tourism. And last, we are joined by Representative Jean Ward. Representative Ward represents District 17, which includes the areas of Hawaii Kai and Kalama Valley. Senator and Reps, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
So today's discussion is based on the topic of safe travels. Our Safe Travels program has been credited with keeping Hawaii one of the lowest states in the nation for infection rates of COVID-19. There is a bill, HB 1286, which would make changes to the program. Why do changes need to be made to this program now? Maybe we can start with Rep. Onishi, Rep. Ward, and then to Senator Wakai.
Well, the bill was introduced as a byproduct of the House Select Committee on COVID-19, and the members, which are basically community, both business and health representatives, as well as the House legislators, felt that the varied protocols, the varied requirements for each island made it very confusing for people to understand what exactly was needed in order to come to Hawaii safely. Even residents within the state, and we've heard testimony from a number of people that were confused as they travel from one island to the other, whether it's for work or for pleasure, or to visit family or emergency situations. So the House felt like it was necessary that the state have an overarching single safe travels program that took into account the best practices, which, every island has sort of implemented what they consider to be best practices. The bill is sort of modeled basically around the most stringent, requirement, which is Hawaii Island, which requires 2 testing of all people that are coming from overseas. And then if you test positive, then there's a protocol for addressing that test. And we are very disappointed that the Senate yesterday deferred the bill instead of moving it along.
Rep. Ward, any comment?
Yes. First, a bit of the history of the whole Safe Travels program. I worked with the White House back in March of 2020 to get the FDA and the DOT to say, hey, can we prevent people from coming into the state of Hawaii? We got the go-ahead from them, but Alaska picked it up and ran with it. Now we're running with it. And hats off to our former colleague, Derek Kawakami of Kauai. I think he had the right approach. He was going to really test things very strictly. So it became like lives were more important than the livelihood because the tourism issue was coming. So I had a kind of a home rule conflict about, hey guys, we can even do better if we follow Kauai's issue. But then again, too many businesses were dying on the vine. So for the sake, and I think as Representative Onishi has said, for the sake of consistency to the islands, you can't have tourists having, on one hand, how do you get to Kauai this way? How do you get to Oahu? And quite frankly, when my daughter came in Christmas time, it was like jumping through hoops. I went to a convention in Florida in January, and just getting the timing of the 72 hours, it's crazy. So to have different criteria, was going to be very discouraging because as a resident of the last 50 years, I found this really frustrating. So I decided for the sake of the economy and opening the economy, which is our primary concern at this particular juncture, it's best to go with 1286. I didn't know that it was not being heard. That shows the controversy. That shows the crisis of conscience that people have between home rule and otherwise continuity between all the state jurisdictions.
Thanks, Rep. Senator, your take?
Well, we actually did have a hearing on that bill yesterday, Gene, that House Bill 1286. And to what Representative Onishi was mentioning, the confusion for the visitor. When you look at visitor satisfaction surveys done by HTA, you'll see that over the past year or so, visitor satisfaction has gone from a high of about 95% down to a low right now of around 70%. And a large chunk of that reasoning is because tourists are confused about the safe travels protocols. And as was mentioned previously by the representatives, the different islands have different types of protocols, and that's led to anxiety for the visitor. So I totally understand the House's position. And as I mentioned, we had a hearing yesterday. And I was in the minority. There's a majority of other representatives, senators. Keep in mind, this is not just my committee. It was the Committee on Health as well as the Committee on Public Safety. And the majority of those members felt that, home rule is important and we have to be able to have flexibility for the nuances on Maui, on Kauai, that might have a different take on safe travel. So I tried to save the measure by saying, okay, well, maybe safe travel statewide mandate might not be appropriate for the Senate, but how about going and having a discussion about a vaccine passport? Because that's going to be the next iteration that all of us are going to be discussing. Unfortunately, that idea fell on its face. So what we have is a bill that was deferred yesterday in the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. And I will stay on you for the next question. How has the COVID-19 pandemic changed how we look at our tourism as a primary economic engine for our state?
We were talking about over-tourism back in 2019, right, when we were overflowing, so to speak, with 10.5 million visitors. And we've been talking about better management of tourism for a long time, but I think COVID has really accelerated that discussion, right? No more pushing it down the field. We have to figure out how we're going to better manage tourism in the future. And I think we're seeing that with technology, we can use technology to help better manage things. Have a statewide, for example, for our state parks, put a statewide reservation system so we can make sure that not too many people are at Haleakala, not too many people, that's a federal park, not too many people are at Diamond Head or Iao Needle or other locales, that we can use data to better manage them and make sure that we push tourists to the right spots, right? To me, it's not just a number. We can chase 12, 15 million visitors if we push them to Ala Moana, to Kualoa Ranch, and not let them land up in Lani Kai, Hawaii Kai, or in the wrong places throughout the state. So the coronavirus has really pushed us to better think through how we're going to better manage tourism in the future.
Rep. Ward?
With the downturn, it's like, do you miss me yet? We actually took for granted, as the good senator was saying, that the tourists were always going to come. And then when they didn't come, my God, even the restaurants in some remote places rely on tourists. We don't realize how reliable we are on them. It is, in fact, the goose that lays the golden eggs. But we can't turn it around. But to me, here's the bottom line, and here's the lesson of lessons. We've got to diversify the economy. We can't keep going up and down and saying, yeah, we love it, we hate it. We've got to diversify the economy. There's 4 areas, and I know Senator Wakai is up to speed on all these. The Hollywood of the Pacific. We should be putting the movies here more than any other place outside of Hollywood. We can be the Geneva of the Pacific with the Asia Pacific APPI, Security Studies Center at Fort Ruger. We got the East West Center. We got space tourism. We've got sports tourism. We've got all the things that we do. We talk about it, but we don't do it. And that's why Senator Wakai and DBED, and I hope all these things in the future will say, hey, the message of COVID was, get your economy in shape. Just don't rely upon tourism. Diversify it, diversify it, diversify it.
Representative Onishi?
Yeah, well, I would agree with Senator with Representative Ward, that we do need to look at diversification. That has been an issue that has plagued the legislature for decades, looking how to diversify from tourism. But I think we're missing the point right now. Right now, the issue is economic recovery, and we need to get people back to work instead of depending on the government for unemployment. We need to continue to do the things that we do best, which is accepting people's visit to the best place in the world. How we manage that has been the big problem over the decades. And we had, for the last couple of years, bringing that issue to the forefront. So the places that are being impacted are natural resources and visitor destinations. Unfortunately, the department that is responsible for the management of that has done a tremendously poor job in doing it. But people within the legislature and in the public look at the tourism industry as being responsible for managing those resources when they have no authority at all. You know, there's been bills to ask HTA to put together a reservation system, but it's not their responsibility. They don't have authority to do that. You know, it sits with the Department of Land and Natural Resources, who have for decades ignored the management of those resources. I think that's what has been evident with this pandemic, and that we have to fix.
Can I footnote that, Mr. Moderator?
Sure.
Can I have 2 cents worth here?
Yes.
Love's Bakery should have never gone out of business. We should have seen the survival and the flag flying upside down. And that's where there's the need for DBED to get its act together, put together a survival task force to where they actually go out and monitor some of these businesses, or at least know when it is maybe 6 months away from failing. And quite frankly, there's more Love's Bakeries out there right now that when they come to the media and we find out, oh my God, that would be impossible. 170 years? You can't fail. Well, the one thing we got to do in this particular session is to get a revival of our small businesses. And if the guys of the strength and the reputation of Love's can't make it, what about all these other small guys? I would say DBED's got to get Senator Wakai, Rep Onishi, those guys have got to get on their act. I put a reso in where there should be a task force with the bankers, with other consultants, with other people who are doing finances and consulting, with the Minority Business Development Agency, the SBA, et cetera, to go out and see if these guys need any help. Do a survey, see how many guys are in the possible throes of destruction. Otherwise, they're going to continue to fall on the wayside, and we're going to sit and say, oh my God, I didn't know that was going to happen. Well, we got caught off guard, and we're going to continue to get off guard. We don't wake up and see that we can do better than we've done in the past.
Thanks, Rep. We have about less than 5 minutes left, but we've been in this pandemic for almost a year now. Where do you see tourism and the tourism industry, let's say in 1 year or in the next 5 years? We can start with Representative Onishi, then we'll go to Senator Wakai, and then to Rep Ward.
Yeah, you know, I think that we will be focused, I think, on trying to rebuild those the visitor industry and the businesses associated with it. I think we will be back in about a year. The thing that you know, how we address people safely coming to Hawaii is going to be a key issue. That will allow people to come back and support our businesses, support our industry. Without that, you know, it's going to be a hodgepodge of different methods and different ways to get here. People are still going to be confused. We're still going to have these problems. And that's why I think the Safe Travels program was a key to us rebuilding the tourism industry safely. that would allow us to protect our residents and the visitors that are coming to Hawaii.
Senator.
I think we're all pleasantly surprised that we've kind of turned the corner on the resurge of tourism faster than we had thought. If you'd asked me a question a few months ago when we would kind of see a rebound, I would have thought it was the summer, but we're seeing spring break has been a real good catalyst for the rejuvenation of tourism. Over the past Saturday or weekend, we had 28,000 people come into Hawaii. Compare that to about 11 months ago when we were lucky to get 1,000 people to come here. So you can see that the rebound is picking up pace. You look at the economic reports, they're envisioning about 5.5 million visitors this year. I think it's going to be a few more years before we get back to near the neighborhood of 10 million, if we even want to get to 10 million. But I think that there are good signs on the horizon. The vaccination rollout across the nation as well as across the globe will help hasten the resurgence of tourism. I think the Asian economy, Asian tourism is going to be dead for a little while, especially until after the Olympics. But come August, I think we're going to see more Japanese and Koreans and Taiwanese visitors coming to our shores. So, but I do want to briefly go back to what Onishi mentioned earlier about DLNR. I agree with him that DLNR really undervalues its product, and their showcase are the various parks and marine areas, and we should be right-sizing the charging for those facilities, whether it's for the admission, for parking or something, and really push DLNR to figure out how to monetize its assets, how to create that statewide reservation system, because he's absolutely right that it shouldn't be HTA, it should be DLNR taking ownership of their assets, but they kind of are, for whatever reason, paralyzed to doing so. So that's why you have outside forces now trying to force them to do the right thing that they should have done decades ago.
Representative Ward.
Quick 3 points. We'll have driverless cars in 5 years, so everybody's going to be traveling different. As a visitor industry, we'll have COVID-free flights, COVID-free hotels, COVID-free workplaces. And while we've got to now work on what we've got down the street, Patrick Sullivan, spit in a cup, $20 for 10 minutes. We've got to be able to get control of this COVID, or all this stuff is speculative and sort of aspirational. Thank you.
We have about 30 seconds left.
I thought I was going over.
And my last question is to describe this pandemic in one word. Rep Onishi.
Unprecedented.
Senator Wakai.
Enlightening.
Rep Ward.
Catastrophic.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you folks for joining us here in our second segment of our 1 hour special. And for those of you at home, we look forward to having you tune in next week. Mahalo.
Thank you
for wearing my initials on your blazer.
What are you doing? We have to go. I'm gonna be late for work.
It's Tuesday morning. I gotta record live at the Legislature on Alelo. Senate and House leadership discussing what's happening at the state capitol.
So just watch it on the news tonight. Come on, let's go.
Hey, this is like getting the news before it's news. If only I could get this remote to work.
There. Can we go now?
No DVR? No problem. Watch Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. on Channel 49.